Welcome, everyone. It is Monday, February 8th, 2021. It is 5:15 and the Carroll City Council meeting shall now commence. Will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please note everyone is in attendance. Our first item this evening is the consent agenda, which is approval of the minutes of the January 25th and 27th meetings, approval of the bills and claims. Under licenses and permits, we have the renewal of a Class C beer permit with Class B wine permit for carry-out wine, which includes native wine and Sunday sales for Dollar General Store number 2756. We also have some appointments to the commissions and boards. The first one is Jonathan Poggeweaver to the the Historical Preservation Commission. It's a 3-year term set to expire on 12/31/23. We also have Daniel Stern for Planning and Zoning Commission to fulfill an unexpired 5-year term, which is to expire on 12/31/22. And finally, Michelle Pritchard, again for Planning and Zoning Commission, to fulfill an unexpired 5-year term, which is to expire on 12/31/23. We also have a firefighter resignation and new appointment. Are there any questions with regards to the consent agenda? If not, I'll need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. If there's no other discussion, we'll go ahead and vote, please.
Haley,
Yes.
Fleshner,
Yes.
Dirks,
Yes.
Seaman,
Yes.
Cox,
Yes.
Base. Yes. Motion is approved.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is under oral requests and communications from the audience. If there's anyone, you'll have to unmute your microphone. Oh, Vicki, David. Come on up.
I'm here to give a report on the Carroll Historic Preservation Commission.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. Our project last year was to do an Iowa site survey, which we did about the cemetery. We submitted it in October to the State Historic Preservation Office. We got the results back in December, and they considered it eligible for listing on the National Register of Historic Places. So we found that there were 2 criteria that the cemetery fit on. One was the landscape architecture, which was designed by Ray Wyrick and the WPA, and also its social history, especially the Catholic cemetery and the German influence. Also last year, Barbara Hackford and I attended the Preserve Iowa Summit, which was held virtually in Dubuque in June. And we replaced 4 members. 1 member moved away, 1 had family commitments, and 2 had been on the commission for 20 years and decided we needed new blood. Our projects this year, our first meeting is actually tomorrow. Our big project is going to be to work on the National Register nomination. In December and January, Carolyn and I researched and did a lot of writing about this. We submitted it a week ago to the State Historic Preservation Office, and we will have a first draft review of it virtually on March 10th. The project will take probably until the end of the year before we get the National Register designation for it, because we have the March 10th meeting. There's one in July, another one in October, a review by the state committee. And then hopefully by the end of the year, it will be on the National Register of Historic Places. We also will send some people virtually to the Preserve Iowa Summit, which will be in Council Bluffs this year in June. And our big project, besides the National Register nomination, will be to make plans for the celebration of the 150th anniversary of the cemetery, which is next year. It was platted in 1872, and we hope to celebrate that. And part of our celebration will be to continue painting the iron fence, which several of us started last summer, and hopefully we'll finish this summer. And I also want to thank the people in the City Hall and Jack and Jake Brugman for the help that they gave us in getting maps and other documentation that we used in writing up the National Register nomination.
All right.
Okay.
Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And if there's anybody out in the audience that is not present in the City Hall You'll need to unmute your mic if you have any oral requests or communications. Not seeing any others. Thank you again.
She knows what we got coming.
What's
I want to stay for that. Boston Scott's thing.
Well,
She's gone.
I don't know if she might already know.
Send it to her.
Oh,
She,
she knows
yeah, she
already.
read it. She thinks it's a
Okay.
great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, good idea. Thanks, Laverne.
The next item is under ordinances, and it's the Carroll City Ordinance, Chapter 43, Drug Paraphernalia Edition. And Chief, please.
1 second. Thank you, Mayor.
Yep, sorry.
Okay, attached to the memo is the ordinance, very similar to what I presented during the January 24th meeting. Only changes, of course, were the actual code section. That was due to Iowa codification doing some changes within our code that changed that up. Also, after discussion with the city attorney, he believes a schedule violation of $200 is sufficient for this charge. This also matches the Carroll County Ordinance, Chapter 15, dealing with drug paraphernalia. So we would be at the same level that they have. Our previous code did not have a schedule violation. It had a fine up to a dollar amount, is either $200 or $250, and that was determined by the judge. So this will make it a lot easier for the officers too. They'll be able to just write the ticket similar to a traffic ticket, issue it, and the subject at that point could either pay the fine or could plead not guilty and go to court with it, similar to a traffic ticket type of thing. So no other changes to it. I did find the memo from 2013 discussing why it was canceled, and it was, of course, like I said, it's that the city was getting charges from the code getting dismissed. I did find that it was not dismissed from the county attorney's office. It was dismissed through another source. So that was why we initially had removed the code section from the ordinances back in August of 2013.
So like under that 43.03 number 12, you have all the devices.
Correct.
Will you have to, if you confiscate those devices, are you gonna have to test those, swab them?
We will test, yes, we will test. So, for example, a marijuana pipe would have remnants in there that we would test in our internal in our lab. So we don't have to send those to the state. We can still test for that to determine if it is cannabis or not, which
Okay.
is still a Schedule 1 control violation. So it does fall within our code section for drug paraphernalia.
Brad, I was wondering, you compared it to a traffic ticket. If someone wants to know traffic violations for a person, can they find that online?
There is, I know the exact website. It's Iowa Courts Online. If you do Google that,
Okay.
Google it quick. 'Cause
Well, don't Google me because I just got one.
it's
You don't see your name on there?
Don't check, I haven't sent a fine in yet.
If you do go to iowacourts.gov,
Okay,
there's a way to search
And I
by
thought
name
there
or
was.
what's that?
But my question is this the same? Can someone find this out?
Yes, they
Just
can.
as easily?
Yes.
Okay.
So when you go to the Iowa courts, it breaks the codes down into city charges and state charges or county charges.
Okay, so this would be on someone's record in a way.
Yes.
It'd be retrievable.
Correct.
Okay.
And that's also public record if someone does. We get backgrounds for the military that quite often, a couple times a week, and when we run through our in-house system, if that shows up, that's reportable to them also. So there's a few different ways to get access to that.
Okay, thank you.
So if it's like a ticket, they could probably pay this through the Iowa courts
They can
online.
pay it right online. They can pay it at the courthouse or mail in a check also. So it makes it so that if a subject just wants to plead guilty, they don't need to show up in court. And the other way of doing it would be a court appearance required. So someone has to take off of work or whatever it could be to come to work. Even if they wish to plead guilty, they would still have to come to court. In this case, they would not have to. And it does match like I said, it does match the county section too, where they have a schedule violation of $200.
Have you got any other feedback? I haven't heard anything.
Nothing from the public. Nope. Just I've talked to other law enforcement individuals about it, but nothing from the public.
Okay.
So my suggestion, if, it's your guys' of course decision, but without getting any feedback, and it was published, I did see it, I did speak with the paper and the radio station about it. So I'm assuming they were published in both of those, I don't know for sure, but they did get some information. So without getting any feedback, my suggestion would be we waive all 3 readings.
You let the first reading, right, last time?
We did not, this is the
Was it
first
just-
time we're
no,
going to.
Yeah, that's right, you just bring it back.
That was just a
That was
discussion.
just a discussion, yep. Yep, okay.
And actually, I'm going to interject because I know we had another ordinance recently where we waived all 3 readings. I guess I would suggest we only do 1 reading and come
And
back.
bring it
in 2
back,
weeks,
yeah.
Because we've had issues now recently where we go and waive all the readings and then it comes back and bites us later. So I would just give more time for the public. This is the first time it was actually
This-
in ordinance form in the packet. So that would be my suggestion, that we kind of go through the process. That's why state law says do multiple readings. That'd be my suggestion.
I went to the conference on that, and they said, do the first one, but don't do 2 and 3 at the same time. You can do 2 and 3 the second time.
There's a good reason for that.
Yeah, exactly what you just said.
Brad, does under number 12 that Eric mentioned, all the devices that are listed, then whatever the number or however many of these devices you find, the fine is $200 total, whatever.
Even if we find 5 devices or 1 device, the
It's
fine
the
is still
same.
200, yes,
Okay,
correct.
thank you.
Are there any other questions for Brad? If not, I will look for a motion to let the first reading and probably just bring it back then and we'll review it at that point.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second the motion.
There's a motion and a second. If there's no other discussion, go ahead and vote, please.
Fleshner,
Yes.
Dirks,
Yes.
Haley,
Yes.
Seaman,
Yes,
Cox,
Yes.
Base. Yes, motion is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll bring it back to the next meeting, Brad.
Yep, I'm ready for you.
Okay, thank you. The next item we're gonna go to the next section is resolutions. And the first item is the amended resolution for Wendell subdivision plat 2. And Mike, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This plat was originally reviewed by the City Council on November 23rd of last year, and that was approved in Resolution 2096. At that time, the information we received from the applicant and the survey showed the owner as Matthew J. Wendell as a property owner. In fact, the owner is Carroll County Redemption LLC, which is owned by Mr. Wendell. Due to that, we need to take a motion to approve a change to the resolution so that can be reflected on the plats and other information for approval. So staff is requesting council approve the amended resolution correcting ownership for the Wendell subdivision plat 2 final plat. Be happy to answer any questions council has this evening.
Any questions for Mike? If not, I'll look for a motion to approve the amended resolution correcting the ownership for Wendell subdivision plat 2 final plat to Carroll County Redemption LLC.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. If there's any other discussion, we'll go ahead and vote, please.
Base,
Yes.
Haley,
Yes.
Seaman,
yes.
Dirks,
Yes.
Cox,
Yes.
Fleshner.
Yes.
Resolution is approved.
Thank you. The next item on the resolutions is the software services agreement for the cemetery grave discover. And Jack, I believe you're ready?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Excuse me. This has been a process of several years. We've talked about a software program out at the cemetery for individuals, people that want to be able to locate family, friends, their loved ones where they're at the cemetery. And we've been working with Austin Scott for a while to get this set up. And I believe you're going to see here in a few minutes a great program. It'll be very easy to follow, easy to maneuver, and it's a good program. We've seen it. So I would ask Austin, please, on the call also to kind of give you the end of it where you log in and you want to find, where someone is or what spots are open by other family members. Austin will be able to share that with you, and please ask him any questions that you have. And then we'll go into the contract and the agreement after Austin's presentation, and you guys have got all of your questions answered. So I see Austin's on the call.
Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect. I will. Let me see if I can. Can you guys all see my screen okay?
Yes,
Is it
sir.
on television? Okay, perfect.
Yes,
So,
we'll see it.
yeah, just to kind of, thanks for having me, first of all. So, just to kind of go off what Jack said, so I have another company called Great Discover Software, been for about 8 years, and we've been working with Jack for the last few years just to kind of look at options to do something more public through the web to get burial searches, search for available graves, and do it all online with today's technology. So been kind of working with them with the city to go through data, what they had now, and we've gotten pretty much everything in the software, just a little bit of cleanup things here and there in the back end. So this has a whole management side to the cemetery as well, as far as managing owners and some other features on more of the administrative side. But what you're seeing on my screen now is more of the public-facing side, and so we would link to a screen like this off the city's website. We'd have like a search the cemetery button on the website that would go to this screen. And for instance, over on the left side, you have a menu where it's you can search occupied graves, you can search available graves. There's some different views, some points of interest, and if you want to know some contact information or history of the cemetery. So it's all basically on this left-hand menu. Everything works on your phone, just the same, a little bit different layout, but it still works really well from a mobile device as well. So I'll go ahead and just do a quick search for the last name Smith, pretty common name. So as you can see, it actually will pinpoint where all the Smiths are located at, buried in the cemetery. So it integrates with Google Maps, and so basically what we did is we took your guys' existing lot map that the city's engineers had drew, and we overlaid it over the top of the Google satellite map, and then went through and I think they're a little shy of 20,000 grave sites around there pinned within the cemetery. But basically you can click on any of these pins, for instance, grave sites with the last name Smith. I can click and see that there was a William H. Smith, their block number, lot number, grave number. There is some additional information it could display, but this is kind of what we decided, just the basic name and the grave location for now. This works a little bit better on phones, but I'll go and click on Navigate to Grave. Let me just put in my address here. I'll just put in my house and so give you a good example. So basically, it will show you how to drive into the cemetery, and then it shows you basically, park your car here, and then you can walk, to that grave site there. So really, it's going to be a nice feature as far as even having your phone in your pocket at the cemetery, being able to search somebody's name and really find where that person's located at. And then, of course, there's also some search available graves. There's a lot of availability. You can see me type in one that actually has some. There's a lot of availability, so it does take a second to load, which we're kind of working on some of the load speeds. But here's block 8, for instance. So all the blue pins here, there's available grave sites located there. So if you have a loved one that you know is in that area, you could search that area and see like this lot, for instance, has 6 available grave sites within that lot there. So really easy to kind of search through the cemetery to find change view, which basically you can just toggle on. You can go to the map view, which is on Google. There's listing the data out during more of like a tabular data view rather than a map view. So if you're looking at just searching a last name, you just want to see a list of names, you can use the list data view if you want to see just a list. And then also there's points of interest. So for instance, let me zoom out here. So if you click on show points of interest, these the city's adding some more of these currently, but we have the War Memorial. I can click here. Here's where the restroom's at. Storage, the storage garage, a historical building. Here's the main entrance. So basically, we can kind of highlight, different points of interest basically in the cemetery. So of course, there's no printer here, but basically the print button's going to print off whatever's on your screen here onto just a regular printer. So so I guess I know that's kind of short and sweet, but it's pretty straightforward as far as the search capability and the functionality of the public side. And again, there's a huge management piece to this on the back side that the city's going to use, but I think it's going to be really helpful for people visiting the cemetery, find loved ones and things pretty quickly and efficiently. So
is that just because what we have now, or?
It might be just, I guess I'm not sure what you guys have on up there.
You got the War Memorial up right now. I can hardly read what's underneath that.
It just says celebration celebration for Veterans Memorial Day.
It's not very dark.
Okay, yeah, we can.
If somebody has a cell phone and they're outside, at the gravesite, if the sun's shining, they're not going to be able to read that.
Yeah, we can take a look at. I'll make a note on that. That's a pretty easy change on our end. And what the information says under that, the city can elaborate as much detail as they want. As far as War Memorial, they can get history on it or anything, and whatever they type into the software, it's going to display in that pop-up bubble. But I will make a note on the text size there for you.
Well, it's not the size. It's the too light. It's not dark enough print.
There isn't enough contrast.
Yeah, you can't see it, bro. You can't hardly read it from a distance.
Okay, yeah, I will take a look at that. I'll look at the sizing, the color, and I'll take a look at that. It's a really easy change on our end for you guys.
You can see the what says War Memorial because it looks like it's in bold, but then below that, the celebrations, it's just it isn't bold enough. It doesn't pop out. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can make those descriptions a little bit bigger and bolder. Not a problem.
Austin, this is Carolyn, and when you go to a gravesite and you get the name, what comes up with the name? Do you have date of birth and death? What information is available to the person using this?
Yeah, so right now I don't think the city keeps dates of birth on file. I think it's just their date of burial, I believe. Jack might elaborate on that. We don't have
We could add the date of death. We know that information a lot of times.
Okay, yes. So we can add. I can basically flexible. I can add fields or remove fields from this little pop-up bubble. So it's really easy. So if we wanted to add date of death, date of burial, those types of things, it's just a toggle on and off basically on our end. So it's really easy. If you guys, every cemetery we work with likes to kind of pick and choose how much information they have out there. So we can toggle those things on and off.
Okay, another question. Will you have photos of the gravestones? I know people from out of town, sometimes they wonder what condition, like their parents' gravestone is in or whatever, and they may be accessing this. Are you going to include photos like they do on Find a Grave and Iowa Gen?
Yeah, it has that functionality. So yeah, any of the grave sites, you can upload any type of images like headstone photos. You can upload obituaries. You can upload deed files. So It's not on there right now, but it's capable of doing that.
You mean individuals could do that for their family members? I know that's what you can do at Find a Grave.
Just for no, we don't have any just public entry of data, just because this is managed by the city. It's data we know. If you get into the Find a Grave type sites or even like the Ancestry.com, you can't be 100% sure that information's accurate because it's just public input. So we wouldn't want to get into somebody taking a picture of the wrong headstone on accident and then uploading it. If you guys wanted to, we could add some information on the About This Cemetery, and if you guys wanted to allow people to submit you guys photos, but you are kind of the ones who make sure that have the say if it's actually going to go on the website or not. We could have set something like that up, and that would be really easy to set up.
Oh, good. Yeah, it would not be good to just let people do it. I would rather that the city make sure it was accurate. Thanks, Austin.
Yep.
Hey, Austin, one more thing. Can you go to like on any number and click on a number and find out who's at that site?
Not right now. We are adding a new feature here in the next few months. It's a radius search, so it's going to do about a 10-foot radius from where your mouse click was. But yeah, that's something we are adding though. So currently it does not do that, but that is on our release list. And as far as, and you guys when we release new features like that, there's no additional costs involved. So you don't kind of buy widgets in the software. Once you release a feature, you guys get access to that new feature.
Okay.
So this is Jerry Fleshner. The one you're looking at there, it says status occupied and a name. All right, so if you went to one that's unoccupied, what does it say? Can you find one, or I know there's.
Those are the available graves at those blue pins.
Okay.
I'll do block 8 again here.
So occupied doesn't mean that there's someone there. That just means it's owned. That's my question.
No, occupied means someone's there.
Okay.
And then in the back end, there's actually owned graves that are owned, but there's no occupant or no deceased person there.
Okay.
We just don't have that on the public side for you guys. Just, a lot of our clients don't want to be able to just search out who owns what in the cemetery. So, we don't have like an owner search on the public side. On the administrative side, there is. You can look up owners and what they own and everything like that. So these are all like so here's the available grave search in block A. So these are all the available graves. But if you click on them, it just tells you that they are available and then the location of the grave site.
Austin, this is Clay. I'm curious from the sale of our available sites point of view, can a person go in and search if they needed two plots or 3 or whatever side by side?
If you do an available grave, so if you like an available search here, and you click on any of these, it's going to just show you how many grave sites within that lot are available. For instance, like this lot has 3. You kind of see it split into 3 pins here. So you can say, okay, I want to buy, grade 2 and grade 1 in lot 185. So you can basically click and see if you want to buy a couple in that lot. You can easily see kind of on those pins how many are available there.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
What's the plan for having the public be able to start doing this? Be available?
So it's, I have another meeting with the city here just to kind of do some finalizations, running through some data, adding some more of those points of interest. And once that's done, we can add the link to the website whenever you guys, or whenever the city's ready. And then, as far as, advertising it, if you guys want to put on social media or let the public want to know through, advertising means, I guess, that'd be probably the next step once we get that link up.
So if this is approved tonight, maybe in the next 30 to 60 days, is that?
Yeah, yep, easily.
Any other questions for Jack or Austin?
I've just got one, just administrative question.
Sure.
On the staff memo we got that we paid this back in November, and it's coming to us tonight for approval. It just seems a little odd. Am I missing something?
Mike, this is Jack. We worked with Austin, this was presented some time ago. And this process had gone out for 2 or 3 years, and we had to get some initial work done with him in order to get it to this process. And that was the 1999. And then, the contract is being forwarded, it was paid in November. Austin has done so much legwork and put so much time in this, hours and hours. We were hoping that when this process was going forward, it wasn't going to be so time consuming. I think Austin tell you other cities had other software and other things that maybe it was just a little bit easier. So this process took a long time. And I ideally we shouldn't have paid this until November. Or we shouldn't have paid in November until just now, but he has many, many hours into this process.
Okay, don't get me wrong, I like this. This is a really nice project. It just kind of struck me as odd, so.
Yeah, this contract should have been with you. And again, if you decide not to do this, that'll be another conversation. But I think we were directed a couple years ago to, keep moving forward with this. This was an interest, and not many cities our size probably don't have a software system or some kind of form going forward with their cemeteries. So.
Jack, this is Clay. I'm curious, who will be responsible and what are the processes you have in place for maintaining this database now?
Austin will do a lot of the maintaining of it, but right now Deb does a lot of the entering of records and upkeep of that information when sites are bought, when funerals have happened. It's really between Jake and Deb to get that information accurate and get it updated in a relatively quick manner.
Okay, will we have any outlines, guidelines for that? I hear you a quick manner. I'm just curious, something changes in ownership on the map, how do we update that, or occupancy, how do we update that?
We will have access to enter that information. It's going to be a training, several training times with Austin to get it done right. Austin, he will be available every step of the way to train us, to help us do those things that we need to get done to make sure it's accurate. And the process is done in a relatively quick and accurate process.
Maybe,
Would you add anything else to that, Austin?
maybe a
Just as far as the maintaining, that good example, Clay, was basically you, let's say a grave site turns from owned to occupy because they're funeral. Right now I've kind of showed Deb a little bit, but basically we're going to have some training sessions on, you basically log in, you flip the status of the grave, you enter the new deceased person's information and click save. So it's pretty slick and easy to make those little small updates or changes.
Austin, what other cities have you worked with?
Let me I can pull up a list, but I think we have a little shy of 100 cemeteries on the software now. So,
Is Glidden one of them?
Glidden is not one of them, but we've done, we've done around here, small towns. We're looking at setting Willie up right now, and we're also looking at, we've done Holy Angel Cemetery on the software. We've done West Side Cemetery. Just trying to think of down here. So we've done a lot of the towns around Carroll. I think Carroll's about 20,000 graves. We have some clients that have, 40,000 grave sites and things too. So we've done cemeteries all shapes and sizes.
I'm going to interject a little bit here too, to kind of get to Clay's question, I think maybe a different angle. We currently have a different cemetery software program. When there is that death occurs or a lot sales occurs, we put that in that software immediately. That's what would go forward here is, it'll be kept up relatively. We're not going to wait 6 months and then put a batch of them in because just from a workflow perspective, we need the software to be up to date and have that current information just as we do our day-to-day business. So it will be something that will be regularly maintained. I think that's where you were trying to go to.
You're exactly right. That's what I wanted to know. What are we doing daily, weekly, monthly? How do we make sure the information is as current as we can, and as of what date is it, whenever a trigger happens?
And it may not be something we update the day of a burial, but it will be updated in a timely manner very quickly after that.
So
Our goal would be weekly.
So on that note, Clay and I are both sitting at home. We're searching for available grave sites. Decide that we happen to choose the same one unbeknownst to the other. I click on it and say I want it. I pay for it. Can I pay for that online? And is that live or how?
No, you'd have to come to the city and make that payment. So you can't do it online.
I could see that being a giant issue. Just someone clicks the button before and all of a sudden, hey, now it's not available.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit more to it than just looking at the pins on this map where, these are kind of geographically correct. It's not still the exact lot that you're purchasing. And, so a lot of people want to come in, look at our books, understand exactly where that is.
Okay. Is there a notation in there that somebody knows that they're not buying? Obviously they're not going to be asked for a payment method, but will somebody know that they're not actually buying that site when they're looking at going, yep, I want this?
Well, you wouldn't have a buy now button on it like Amazon. So hopefully that gives you a clue there.
Okay.
Auction them off or something.
Just, we talk technology and everything that's available, and it's just, I just want to make sure.
You could probably eventually get to that once I think that you get it all organized, that they could do the transaction online. Probably.
Be a good evolution.
I would tend to think most people will go to the cemetery and look at the dirt area before.
You're probably right.
I wanted to make sure.
I've never done this before, but also just knowing how I think and how other people may think. Just wonder if it's an option or if it's something that we're ever looking at. Or
I think there's also a balancing act of what's the cost of getting that type of system up and going versus the number of sales. And it probably doesn't cash flow from a financial standpoint to invest a lot of money in the technology development for that feature, really for the number of individuals that would be able to partake in it in any given year.
all right.
But millennials buy everything on
Are there any other questions for Jack or Austin with regards to the software? If not, look for a motion to approve the software service agreement with Grave Discover LLC for the Carroll City Cemetery software improvements for the annual fee of $3,588.
So moved. Second.
There's a motion and a second. If there's no other discussion, we'll go ahead and vote, please.
Dirk,
Yes.
Haley,
Yes.
Cox,
Yes.
Base. Yes. Fleischner.
Yes.
Simmons.
Yes.
Resolution is approved.
Thank you. Thank you, Austin, and thanks, Jack.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You bet. Let's see here. The next item under the agenda is under reports. And street maintenance facility, bridge crane, and Randy, I believe you're up, sir, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The plans for the street maintenance facility were developed to include a 2-ton bridge crane in the truck storage bay area of the building. Bidding was structured such that the crane could be bid as an alternate in case there wasn't enough funding. The alternate bid included only the bridge crane. The supporting structure for the crane was included in the base bid for the building. And that rationale was that in the event the bridge crane couldn't be afforded at the time of bidding, the structure would be in place for addition at a later time. The contract for the building was let on September 28th of 2020 without including the bridge crane only. And we were still thinking that it could be added at a later date. But as shop drawings began to come in as they were prepared, the steel contractor prepared his shop drawings based on the plans. And those plan shop drawings need to be verified by the crane manufacturer in order to make certain that the crane will fit on the supporting structure. The crane manufacturer has declined to verify those shop drawings without being issued a purchase order for the purchase of the crane. The plans were actually prepared, actually based on the manufacturer that was proposed by the successful bidder. But there's still no certainty that the supporting steel will fit the bridge crane without the manufacturer's consent or approval of the shop drawings. And in addition to that, we've learned that crane manufacturers change designs of their cranes, so that even if today's supporting structure were approved and the crane was not purchased, that in the future, that supporting structure may not fit the crane available at that time, even from the same manufacturer. So there appears to be a few options for proceeding with the building. You could go ahead and build the supporting structure pursuant to the plans. And of course, the advantage of that is you get a good bid price on the supporting structure. And an additional advantage is that if that structure is in place, all the other mechanical, electrical, and plumbing facilities would be rooted around that structure. Of course, the disadvantage is that without manufacturer review and approval of the drawings, the supporting structure may not fit the crane at a later, currently, or even at a later point in time. A second option would be to delete the supporting structure completely from the plans. The steel erector and fabricator have offered a $19,000 credit on the contract for removal of that structure. The advantage, of course, is the price reduction, $19,000. Disadvantage is that if a crane is ever desired to be installed, it would probably cost considerably more than the price that you have in hand. Third option may be to add the 2-ton crane alternate to the contract at the bid price of $48,200. Of course, the advantage of that is we have a complete bridge crane and it's usable, operable, at a competitively bid price. The disadvantage, of course, is the additional cost. Provided for you is a list of the funding sources for the project and the current cost estimate for the project. The construction contingency, currently at $223,500, is provided to cover unforeseen expenses that are encountered and determined necessary for the completion of the project. If the 2-ton bridge crane addition is selected, that construction contingency could cover the cost of the crane if there aren't any other unforeseen necessary expenses. If that were the case, that there are, that kind of consume the construction contingency, there may be a need for additional funding as you go down through this project. At this point, unless there are any questions, I'd recommend that you consider approval of addition of the 2-ton bridge crane to the contract at the bid price of $48,200. And that certainly is based upon the anticipation that that cost will fit in the construction contingency. If not, if there are other necessary items that absolutely need to be included in the contract, it may require additional funding at some point down the road in the project. And if either the second or third option are selected, a change order would need to be prepared and brought back to you for approval to add that to the contract.
I think I'm missing the page.
We don't have the financing.
I'm missing option 2 and 3.
Right.
That's the page we don't have.
Oh, it's not online.
No, it didn't make it online. I put it off and I started going through and I guess I talked with Mike on Wednesday, I kind of already had my mind made up where I thought that this should go, but so I kind of read through it, but I
Randy,
didn't.
we're gonna have $175,300 left if we okay this, our contingency money. Is that what I get out of it?
Yes, I guess I haven't done the math, but the $223,500 is the current contingency,
Right.
less the 48,200.
Right, so it's $175,300. Usually in a construction like this, once you get the dirt work done, there's not a lot of unforeseen things or new construction. Am I correct with that?
Well, that's generally the case. You know, there can be specific examples on any project, but generally that is the case.
And we're past that now?
We're close to that. The dirt work is up, the footings have been started.
Thank you.
Once we hit snow, I think they kind of quit doing
Yeah.
I don't know if they've been back or not. I drive by once in a while.
I just wanted to hear from Randy where they were at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I wanted to know, so the dirt work was done.
A little bit of the footing completed and most of the dirt work.
But it's
So it's
not
not like
like
it's a remodeling project, so you're not gonna have a
Right.
ton of unexpected things.
correct.
I know from my spot, Randy, when we first let the contract and you had, I think it was 11 bid up alternates, if I remember right. I know this was one that I had talked to you about, wondering if we should be removing it or not, or keeping it on at that point. I know based on what the need is and use of it, I really believe it's something that we should have in there anyway. With all the lifting and such that they have to do between the manual lifting and multiple people involved, this is less than a workman's comp injury.
Well, no, I'll concur with that statement, Councilman Kotz. A bridge crane in a modern shop is darn near a necessity.
You can make that a one-person job, basically, but if you're using floor jacks, you could be doing 2 or 3 people. I think it just improves your efficiency too.
Yeah, along with the safety as mentioned, you bet.
That's a big thing, if we can save someone's back. Yeah. Thanks for that page. I got it all. I guess I'm more inclined to go with is it option 3, which is adding the crane alternate. That's kind of where I'm at. I don't know if anybody else has any other.
Say barring any conversation, I would make the motion to accept option 3, move forward.
I second that motion.
There's a motion and a second. There's no other discussion. We'll go ahead and vote, please.
Seaman,
Yes.
Cox,
Yes.
Haley,
Yes.
Base. Yes. Dirks,
Yes.
Fleischner.
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. Thanks, Randy.
You bet, thank you.
The next item on the agenda is to set a public hearing for the proposed property tax levy fiscal year July 1, 2021 to June 30th, 2022. And Laura, please, when you're ready.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So council has gone through a number of budget work sessions, and the next step in the process is to set this public hearing. As a way of a little bit of a background, since this is just our second year of doing this, back in 2019, the state legislature passed Senate File 634, which the goal was to add transparency to city and county property taxes and that whole process. It does two main things. First, it adds additional public notification about the property tax collections for both city and county, and it adds an additional public hearing. Second, it also requires that the budgets to be approved by a 2/3 supermajority when the property tax collections in certain categories exceed this 2% over the previous year tax collections. So in the form itself, if you take a look at that, the first column is the property taxes of the required levies that are to be included in this, which one very notable one is not included. Per state code, we do not include the debt service levy. So the levies that affect the city, the city of Carroll's property or budget includes the regular general, or what we call the 810, our tort liability, as well as the employee benefits levy. The first column of the form or the public hearing is what the levy was or is currently in our current fiscal year, fiscal 21. And it shows the amount of taxes asked for each of those categories. And then at the very bottom, it shows what that tax rate is based upon what our current tax valuation is. The second column is what's called the effective property tax rate in fiscal 22. What that does is it takes the tax dollars that you had asked in fiscal 21, applies it to the new taxable valuations that we have for fiscal 22 and says, this is what the tax rate would be if you asked for the same dollars of taxes as you did in fiscal 21. The third column then is the property tax rate that you're proposing to the voters, to the citizens based upon your current year's, fiscal 22 taxable valuation, and then the tax dollars that you actually want to have on each of those levies, and then gives you the tax rate at the bottom. And so then it compares your fiscal 21 to your fiscal 22 tax rate and tax dollars. This form shows it is a 4.67% increase, which is just over or right around $248,000. Once again, this does not include the debt service levy. So when we talked about our budget in our budget work sessions, or our levy in our budget work sessions, and we add in our debt service levy for fiscal 22, the actual asking is only 1.67%, or an increase of just under $103,000. So since this is a rate increase, according to this form and the way the law is written, it is a 2% or greater than the 2% threshold. So we would need a supermajority, but all of our resolutions need a supermajority anyway to pass.
It's the most transparent document I've ever read. It doesn't have all the information on there.
Right.
That's correct. Well, I guess if you read the little asterisks, I guess, then it's,
The asterisks, then, yeah.
Yeah. So,
So tonight is to set the public hearing for the next council meeting, and at this point, we're setting the tax rate at the maximum tax rate. After the public hearing and considering any other comments that council may receive during this time period, council can decide to leave the levy rate as proposed or decrease it. And if you decrease it, then it would definitely affect the budget document that we've discussed so far.
so it's a public hearing for the budget.
It's a
Correct.
public hearing for this
Portion.
tax rate. Then we will, after we approve the maximum tax rate, then we will set a public hearing for the budget as a whole, and then have to hold a public hearing for that.
So everything that we have proposed in the budget will go through basically 2 public hearings.
Yes.
Okay.
And we are working through the changes, we've just about got them ready, from the budget discussions that we had, the changes that we had discussed. And I had a note on what those were, just to remind council, the budget changes that we discussed in our work sessions that will get incorporated, include changing the airport revenue, the miscellaneous revenues that was identified, changing the election expense to only have one election instead of two in fiscal '22. Includes a transfer out of the local option sales tax fund to the capital projects fund streets to provide funding for the Timberline Road design services, and adding a new fund for the rec center building project to begin the design services, and proposing using a transfer to use local option sales tax for the funding source for that. So those are budget changes that we're working to get incorporated. And then updating all the pages in the budget document.
So the budget, so at the next meeting, we'll have to set the proposal for the public hearing, be the first meeting in March for the whole thing.
Yes.
Correct, yeah. I'm just putting the timing in my head, okay. Are there any other questions for Laura? If not, I'll look for a motion to approve the date set of February 22nd, 2021 for the public hearing for the proposed property tax levy rate of $10.
I know. You can do,
$10.42259
or the maximum property tax levy.
for the maximum property tax levy.
So moved. Second.
There's a motion and a second. If there's no other discussion, we'll go ahead and vote, please.
Cox?
Yes.
Fleshner?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Jerks?
Yes.
Bates? Yes. Haley?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. The only comment I have this evening is please bundle up and stay warm and stay inside. It's going to be really cold. Are there any comments from the city council? Anybody on the council? Any comments from our city manager this evening?
Nothing, Steve.
Nothing.
Thank you, Mayor.
Seeing that we are finished, look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. We'll go ahead and vote, please.
Seaman?
Yes.
Jerks?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Fleshner?
Yes.
Bates? Yes. We are adjourned.
Thank you.